selected an aspirational vision and a local development team called Project to advance negotiations and discussions on this vision. We worked extensively with this development concept and partner group throughout 2018 and into 2019, where we held a third open house to present the vision and development proposal for the site. Ultimately, our agreement and negotiations with Project terminated in late 2019, primarily due to challenges with feasibility of the project and the vision and the scope, and many economic constraints that the project endured. Then COVID hit. This brought two major impacts and delays to this effort. First, our city staff reprioritized and focused into efforts such as COVID response and recovery, including things like administering and managing emergency small business grants, providing protective personal equipment to small businesses for the safety of their patrons and employees, and many other tasks that were not originally anticipated as part of our work plan throughout 2020 and even into the early parts of this year. We've also been pivoting towards recovery and seeking to provide similar support to this day. Secondly, the real estate market, as well as many other aspects of society and the economy, experienced many disruptions. So we determined it was best to wait until we progressed through the first initial wave of COVID and its impact to reassess what to do with Block 67 and what opportunities may exist. Some conversations at this time with stakeholders and interested parties, but no significant focus or effort was placed on the project by our staff due to the reasons I mentioned. That leads us to where we are this evening, seeking to re-engage our community, that's all of you, to build upon much of the engagement and input we received previously, and in anticipation of going out for a request for proposal, also called an RFP, to seek a new development partner for the site. We've been asked, and some may wonder, why did the first attempt not result in a project, or what is different this time than it was a couple of years ago? There's many complex reasons, as I noted, why, in short, we had a very expensive project with a lot of exciting components and community desires trying to be interwoven to it, but ultimately those components, many of which were very challenging to bring to realization, and led to some project costs that really were difficult to ultimately manage and make work. Additionally, the market has shifted a bit in the past couple of years, as many of us are likely aware of. The market hasn't diminished necessarily due to COVID, especially in things like residential need, but it has taken some time to allow our staff and our community to evaluate and recognize new market patterns that are emerging. This sets the stage for new analysis that we've been conducting over this past summer, and which Carla will speak to here in a couple of slides to come. Next slide, please, Jess. This slide really is just a bulleted recap of some of that early public engagement. And our goal tonight was really to recall something that has been fresh in staff's mind, but a lot of the input, a lot of the interest that the community expressed early on in those work, bring that back forward and really to test that with the community to say, are these pieces still relevant? Are there new ideas or opportunities that are identified that need to be included? And really to equip our staff as we get ready to engage in that request for proposal process. These brief open house summaries was really to capture a whole host of feedback. And was common to have varying degrees of community consensus on a project of this importance and magnitude, there was general consensus reached on a couple of topics. Feedback was also very thematic in nature. And what this led to, from what we heard in open house number 1 on the screen, was our staff decided to go out and conduct some very detailed analysis on some of those key takeaways, such as housing as a whole, different housing option types, higher density housing and its feasibility on this location, as well as some commercial related uses. We went out and conducted in 2017 a grocery study because that was a key interest, although we were recognizing too that Hank's, a major community grocery store that was well loved, and also just recently closed down on this very site. Parking was a major piece raised also during those early community discussions, and having a balanced parking approach. Not over parking it necessarily, but definitely not under parking it, especially to the degree that it can have impacts on surrounding neighborhoods and community parks. Then lastly is how do we continue to draw something exciting here? How do we do something truly unique and different for our downtown? And in closing on this slide, the third open house really saw the project development team come forward with a vision that we've selected them for, and that we refined that point to vet those ideas and try to reconnect the early community input and engagement with where that project was trending. And unfortunately, as I noted earlier, that project ceased and did not come to fruition, which then brings us back around to the With that being said, I'll turn it back to Justin now just to cover a little bit more of how that community input that we received in the first round of this project really helped to inform the last RFQ, or request for qualification, and how that can help inform us as we move forward. Justin?
Thank you, Dan. This round of 2017 request for qualifications elements. In practice, what it is what we heard in 2017. And basically, that RFQ was structured the two sets of elements. One was things that are required, or were required, and the second was elements that were not required but requested. And so as you can see on the slide, it broke down that the requirements were a mixed use, that's residential and commercial, with a market rate residential supply, open space that serves the community, high quality urban design, and a plan for parking. The requests were focused on mixed income or attainable housing, an element of employment or job creation being included in the site. One that we'll talk a little bit more in detail about here is part of the grocery analysis. An amenity of some kind that might be retail or food or small grocery, market grocery. And then finally, the integration of the quarter block immediately across 6 to the west was also considered a requested item in that RFQ. The developer proposed a complementary use for that smaller piece. So again, that's the baseline. That's what we heard. And our goal this month, and largely one of the goals of this presentation, and a request for feedback ahead of this presentation and after, is to revisit this and to see how it can be adjusted or weighted in the upcoming RFP, as we'll talk about over the presentation. But this time we change gears a little bit and dig into a little bit of the recent data that we have gathered. And Carl's going to walk us now through some of the details of the updated housing market analysis, as well as the updated grocery market analysis.
Thank you, Justin. This slide talks about the City Commission equal request to update the 2017 housing analysis that we did back then for Block 67. And the goal of this particular report was to reassess the housing market analysis to better understand the current conditions today. Equal request reviewed the 2017 housing analysis and relevant background information, including the downtown framework plan, the downtown urban renewal plan, the Urban Land Institute Technical Advisory Panel recommendations, and also relevant portions of our development plan. They also conducted interviews with Pacific University in order to assess role and also to obtain updated growth projections for those entities. They interviewed developers to understand their perception of how downtown Hillsboro could best accommodate different housing product types, including student and senior housing. For a newly constructed multifamily development, Equinox West looked at housing supply by evaluating unit counts, unit sizes, mixes, and amenities, rents, vacancy, and lease-up rates. They also updated the analysis with information about existing and planned residential developments in the downtown area. They looked at demand drivers by examining new housing development in downtown and the broader Hillsboro market, addressing supply and demand, current demand, and anticipated future demand. They looked at employment trends, commute flows, household information such as private household, income, age, and unit type. As you can see from the slide, downtown population growth is slower than the City of Hillsboro from 2010 to 2019. You can see it shows 8% for downtown, and the city as a whole is 16%. Downtown Hillsboro is a large economic base with 11,511 jobs as of 2018. There have only been 93 new multi-family projects built in downtown Hillsboro from 2011 to 2021. The other factors that contribute to potential demand for housing in downtown include new commercial development, increased interest in urban living, demand for local institutions, and Hillsboro's strong employment base. Downtown Hillsboro has an opportunity to have a greater role in providing housing for people working in Hillsboro institutions. This slide talks about lower pace of growth appears to be due to constrained housing supply, not demand. Adjacent institutional partners are also growing. Pacific and Atlanta Hillsboro Medical Campus Medicals have expansion plans. In June of 2020, Storm Records opened a 4-bed neonatal intensive care unit at Trinity. The key takeaway here is new housing is needed to help keep pace with the current growth. Next slide. This particular slide talks about the housing balance. Downtown is predominantly an employment center. There are 3.7 jobs to 1 housing unit. This is unusually high. Compared to Portland, metro area Portland, downtown Hillsboro, and Hillsboro as a whole have a higher share of jobs relative to the number of housing units. People work here, but very few live and work here. Of the 11,511 jobs in downtown Hillsboro, about 97% commute into downtown. In comparison, 3% of residents live and work in the area. About 3,934 residents of downtown Hillsboro work outside the area, mainly in Washington, Oklahoma, and Clackamas County. Better balancing of the jobs housing could reduce traffic and emissions. The goal really here is to make downtown a place where people live, work, and play. Now let's look at housing demand. We have an all-time low 3.2% vacancy rate, which indicates a very strong demand for housing downtown. Vacancy dropped even lower through the pandemic to this point. Typically, a vacancy rate of 4% or lower suggests a constrained multifamily market. Downtown Hillsboro has a very limited new supply. Just to note, Isabel Terrace is bringing 30 multifamily units online December 2021, and that's located at Ninth and Washington, and they've already pre-leased 5 units. And they are going to build a second phase of 26. Talk about the grocery market analysis. We also commissioned TPS. They were the same folks, same consultants that did the grocery market analysis back in 2017. We'll commission them to update our grocery market analysis for Block 67. Continued grocery and specialty food sales potential for households in the northern neighborhoods as a primary source of support for grocery and retail downtown. An increased number of seniors living downtown could also have implications for grocery demand to the extent these households move into downtown. Just to note, Merrill Gardens, which will be located at the corner of 4th and Main, kitty corner to the 4th and Main apartment, is breaking ground on Monday, September 20th, and that is a senior living facility, and they will have 141 units. So the increased numbers of seniors living downtown could have implications for grocery demand. Sources of grocery support are new market rate housing units, workforce housing units, senior independent living active adult units, the underserved northern neighborhood households, and office worker daytime spending. I just wanted to note a map on your screen shows a heavy dark line, and that is the area that was a study area for the grocery market analysis as well. Next slide. The key findings from the grocery market analysis, there are 4 markets in downtown with the addition of the collective market, and there are a total of 7 within a 3-mile radius. A full-scale grocery store is unsupportable with current economic conditions. The median 2019 income is $51,185. That's a 2019 number. And then small niche or specialty foods are viable with additional revitalization of downtown. We need to increase the number of residents and improve spending potential in downtown.
Take a look at the next steps in this upcoming RFP, the request for proposal process. A few notes on what that process includes may be helpful. So for those that may not know, RFP is where the city we'll develop a request for proposals. We'll put out a document that outlines the goals and visions for the site. So that's our opportunity, in effect, to communicate what the community has implemented as important out to the development community. And then the second phase of the process is their proposals or responses will be received. And that in turn allows us to evaluate their specific vision for the site. But beyond that, it also will allow us to assess their ability, both in terms of their skills and abilities, but also the financial, economic viability of their vision for the site. And following upon that, with successful proposal, then will allow us to enter into a relationship with the developer or partner with them to identify public-private opportunities for development. So that's just a quick overview of what the RFP process is about for those that may not be familiar with it. And so, as we look to the next step, the next document in this process is the RFP itself, where we communicate with the development community what needs to be a part of this project. And calls upon them to break down some specific plans for how that can be achieved. So this slide is, you may notice, very similar to the slide that we considered earlier in this presentation related to the 2017 RFQ. And it lists a number of elements, all of which we've received input on. And starting from the baseline of what we heard in 2017, we now are looking to reassess these elements. And this is why we're so eager to hear from the community. In terms of, are these still the things that the community wants for the site? And if so, what are the priorities? And so as we develop this RFP, we'll be looking for ways to appropriately weight these different elements so that the developer proposals that include more of this are reviewed favorably. So this is why it's a really key moment for us to listen to the community to hear what the priorities are so that we can appropriately weight it. Again, within the lens of what is economically viable and feasible for the development to happen. So with that, I will go to the next slide where I'll talk a little bit about the specifics of our upcoming schedule. So as I mentioned, the month of September has really been dedicated to listening. Our online survey has been open since the start of September and will continue to be open through the month of September. But the goal is to quickly turn that into a real RFP, which will go out on the street. It's described to be advertised hopefully early in October, or at least in the month of October. It does take time, of course, for developers to review the RFP, to put together plans, to gather partners, to think about their financing. So it really trying to take time for city staff to review those proposals. So having several months for that process to play out, the next probable window of meaningful public engagement where we really seek to talk to the community would be hopefully early in the next year or right around the first of the year where we may have a developer installed at that point. Would be the plan. So with that, I'll give the floor back to Dan to help us with the conclusion and to move us into the community discussion portion of the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Justin and Carla, for all the information in the presentation this evening. And thank you to all of you for tuning in and hopefully finding that information, some of it maybe a little bit of a refresher and review, and hopefully some of it new and helpful as well. I also wanted to just remind folks that the recording of this presentation will be available in both English and in Spanish, and we'll be posting that up to the project website, I believe, after this virtual open house. And additionally, as I mentioned in the early parts of the presentation, the link to that survey is located on this slide. So if you have a chance, and if you've not already taken the survey, please do take a look and feel free to provide your input through that means as well. And at this point in the presentation this evening, we will transition into more of a community discussion. This is always still a bit different in this virtual environment, but we have been reviewing the comments and questions that you all have been posting into question and answer part of the screen during the presentation. Please feel free to add additional questions or comments in as things may come to mind or as we further get into this portion of tonight's presentation and meeting. And with that, I'm going to switch screens and start to tee up a couple of these for our staff to respond to and continue the engagement. We'll start with the first one, and I'll read each of these out loud. And again, just a reminder that these are not necessarily specific questions from one given person. This is a compilation of, in many cases, similar comments or questions coming around a topic, and we've done our best to either grab one of those good questions from one of you or to find a couple of them that staff will seem to respond to. But one right here is that, I'll just read it out loud, is, are the city's priorities for Block 67 the same as they were 2 years ago when Project had a contract? And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and there's two follow-on questions there. If not, have they changed? And what are the factors that have affected this change? And so I'll take the first stab at this and then turn it over to my colleagues. But really the core opportunities of the site, we believe is from a staff standpoint are largely the same. It is a very large site, as we've talked about, in a key location with transit and proximity to other residential areas and commercial areas and institutional partners as in OHSU and Pacific and the like. And so we do believe that there's some of those pieces of multifamily housing or different housing choices that should and are being considered and brought forward in this request for proposal. Similarly, the interest in pursuing that opportunity in terms of a grocer, possibly a large scale, but to Carla's point, maybe at one of those medium size or a more niche grocer, and we're looking at other food co-op models. Definitely something we see as an opportunity, and we definitely hear from our community as desired there, and really recognizing how can that play into what any given developer may engage and bring forward in one of their ideas. And then in addition to that, really emphasizing the importance that we've both heard from the community in the outreach, but really that we also see in a lot of those policy pieces that Justin talked to earlier, is really having this not just be a site for those that are residing on the site itself, but really a community asset. And so that will likely entail some components of community public open space or plazas or additional draw that really seeks to bring the community in and out and realize utilization and benefit from the site as well. So some of it has changed, some of it has not changed. One area that may have changed a little bit is in the last round we were looking at some potential office. That was one of those kind of nice to have pieces that we've thrown out there, not a requirement. The office market, obviously, with COVID has probably been the most heavily impacted use type. And so that's one that we're really reevaluating and think might actually drop down a little bit in terms of interest and realistic opportunity. So to Justin or Carl, see if there's anything else on that particular question that you want to add. Thank you to those of you that provided that input. We hope that addresses some of it. The next one that I'll throw out is parking is widely considered a very difficult problem near the site now. How many spaces in total was the last project projecting, and will the new project provide at least the minimum spaces provided? I'll take a quick stab at this one as well. Parking, we heard loud and clear, really a very broad spectrum of community input in the first round. Some that were saying really trying to seek uses and opportunities to reduce parking. Parking can be expensive in these type of projects. As we talked about, those have access to a lot of different transit options between racks, wall lines, more of the site, and bus options that are also around through the site, such as stops nearby. But we do recognize, too, the impacts that parking can also have both positively and negatively. So I don't remember exactly offhand the number of parking spaces the last project had. If I recall correctly, it was about a little over one space per each residential dwelling unit. And then we also had set aside some parking for some of the commercial, and there was a potential office use in there. And I would anticipate, and this is where we want to hear from you as well, that we would take a similar approach. We would love to have a parking ratio to the residential units if that comes forward. That largely matches our development code, but then it's looking somewhere between about 0.75 and 1 per. And then any other uses, whether a grocer comes along or a food co-op or another commercial user, we would look to have some either off-street and or self-integrated parking as well. And then lastly, I'll note that right across the street from Block 67, just to the east, or as you're looking at some of those maps previously to the right, is another public-private partnership that the city partnered with many partners on quite a few years ago, but is our intermodal transit facility and a parking garage that accompanies that. And some of that parking is designated for area users, especially in the health and education district, like Toyota and Pacific. There's also, I believe, still some parking garage spaces there as well, but there is general parking available in that parking structure, and we get the extra as well. So we hope for now that addresses that particular question. Parking will absolutely be factored into the RFP and considered, but the specifics of that parking really will be yet to be seen until we start to see what some of the developers' visions and concepts start to look like. Just go down here. Next question up is, why didn't the study of the grocery market viability include neighborhoods north of Grant Street? And there was some additional feedback, it sounds like, from a couple different folks about what new bike and ped paths on Jackson School Road and others. There might be a larger market draw and capture for patrons and users of that grocery store beyond just maybe the immediate downtown. That went to you first, being closest to that, to provide an initial response.
Sure. Actually, the grocery market analysis did go north. It went all the way up to the city limits north. So it captures all of those neighborhoods. We will be posting the analyses online shortly. I don't know what happened this week, but look for them next week. But it captures that area as well.
Yeah, I was asking, I've got it pulled up here on my computer, Carla, but that equates to evergreen being another unit of that study, and that's what our program is going
Thanks, Justin.
Just a minute here, we'll processing some additional questions and comments coming in. There's a question here, do you currently have any interest on the property from outside parties? And I would imagine that behind that question, that there's probably some that could be from other parties, maybe some of it's from other city uses, possibly other community partners as well. And the answer to that is yes, somewhat. We remain as a staff very engaged with partners throughout the health and education district, including Pacific University, and which issues I've mentioned, Portland Community College, Hillsboro School District, and others. In terms of their master plan expansions, as Carl alluded to earlier, and how those sites can either directly or indirectly benefit some of those uses as well as other partners with the downtown. We have, over the last few months, had varying degrees of interest from development partners and interest in the like, in terms of ideas or asking what the status. So we hope and anticipate that will lead to some strong interest and some responses in our process. And so for that end, yes, in short, there has been interest. The specificity of that interest has not been well defined yet. Logic to that most progress will be happening here throughout this first community engagement process and the RFP process itself. There's another question or theme coming in around kind of the next step schedule. And Justin, if you don't mind, push us back one just to that timeline slide would be great. And I think the question was, since my general subject effect of future efforts like the visioning session that we showed there in November of 2021, will that be a community review of proposals received in response to the RFP? And Justin, I'll let you answer that initially.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever asked those questions, I'm very grateful that you did. I've highlighted a lot of the so I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. The question was, will the visioning session in November be a community review of a proposal received in response to the RFP? The answer to that is no. Downtown visioning is actually a part of a separate but very related community engagement effort that we'll be kicking off hopefully in November, centered around the 10th Avenue corridor. Like 67, being relatively close to 10th Avenue, we're showing here on the slide as part of the spectrum or the flow of community engagement and communication. So it's worth noting. But that event in November will be a broader event, not specific to Block 67. And we'll be taking a look more at 10th Avenue, some of the longer-term tools that we can go to bear as a community to help that corridor. So that's a separate but related communication there in November. That will still be too early. I think in November, developers would be in the process of writing their proposals. So there wouldn't be too much to share, I think, that early. We're able to provide additional information about what's being proposed. That will most likely be closer to that January date, with like early 2020.
I'll just add one additional note, I think in response to that is, as we get into the final development of the RFP, the request for proposal package, and what the city is going to look for, and how we're going to evaluate and ultimately select projects, really starts to become a bit more of an administrative task, but really our goal is to reflect the multitude of already adopted city policies that have been largely informed by community engagement, as well as the community outreach that we've both received previously, as well as tonight and with the current survey and this current effort. Doing our best to really express and articulate out to interested development community members what it is we seek, what it is we believe is likely viable, and that will be an important part of that selection will be made. But as Justin noted, really that opportunity in January is where we hope to bring that selected developer and that vision back forward to share that with the community, and hopefully at that point we'll be well on our way in advancing towards finalizing the project and getting it officially started. I'm going to go back to the communication threads here, so give me just a minute. There's a couple that we're seeing kind of coming in around, will incentives be offered, or how the terms of a deal work. I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, looking beyond the RFP in the development and project selection. And in short, I would say that it's really hard to say with specificity where we're at right now, mainly because we don't know what are the nature and types of projects coming in, and where and what would be most appropriate for the city to consider with a financial participation or incentive discussion. We do know a couple things for certain. One is that the city is the owner of the land, and we would, sell or transact the land to a development interest, really ensuring that we have great clarity and understanding of what the project will consist of, and ideally, and ultimately aligning with some of those requests and requirements that will ultimately make a way to the RFP and will reflect the community's input and our community's goals and policies for the site. But that is true. Incentives are available. We use incentives in different parts of our cities, and especially when it's seeking to really maximize the community benefit or community interest in a project, or really take something from a market feasible, market attainable project, really to then take it to another level as relates to the alignment of our community aspirations and values. So there are certain incentives that I would anticipate might be considered, but as of right now, there may be guarantees those subject to RFP requests and the following conversations that we will have as and with our leadership with that development partner. I think there's a really good question here. This is what I asked most of our team, and as we get ready to go into this, but it's a really good one, especially from what we saw the last round and then going into this round. So the question is, with limited space and limited funds, the site can't be everything to everyone. I think this is a summary, not an explicit question. But really, how will we as a staff and our leadership engage decisions of priority to be made? How will we utilize this community feedback to inform kind of what comes next? And who kind of would have that final say in the decision-making process? And Justin, we'll let you speak a little bit to the kind of our thought and approach around the RFP, and then I'll close out with a little bit of kind of specific details in terms of that final decision. Where did that going from? How was that made?
I can speak a little bit to sort of the process, and the comment is very correct in terms of, this is the moment where a lot of public input is taken, but ultimately, you're right, the finite is a finite number of things that can be accomplished within each site, so decisions do need to be made about priorities. In terms of the process, what we'll do is we'll build a committee that will play a role in drafting a set of criteria that will go into the RFP, possibly weighted. So that's where really the public input is translated into a more objective set of criteria that can be given a weight, against which the proposals will be measured once they're submitted later this fall. So what exactly by that committee is still to be determined, but that's in general the process that aims to translate a broad array of thoughts and ideas and opinions into some actionable criteria that can guide the selection.
Just to add a little quick on that, the ultimate decision for the deal and the transaction to happen will ultimately be teed up largely by this team out of economic development in partnership with our city manager's office, but then ultimately is made by our city council. And so that is the final review piece. Again, it will not be something that is necessarily open up to a vote to the community or anything like that. It will take this input, take this message, as Justin mentioned, to inform it, and ultimately decided upon by council. Moving on, we'll see the next one. There's a question here, I think another kind of market assessment one. Give me just a second here. So I think that the general sentiment, or there's a few questions coming in, or comments around the last time we talked about office, and has COVID really impacted office, and is there any thought or hope or chance of office coming in here? Carl, if you want to speak up, I have a couple pieces to add just from our experiences kind of citywide on that.
I'll try. I'll jump in. We are anticipating probably not a lot of office on that site, but I mean, we'll have to wait for the proposals to come in from those developers. The last, when project was heading out, they had quite a bit of office cited for this particular area, so I think it's going to be a small amount.
Yeah, I would generally share that sentiment, and this is one really where, we're very interested across many fronts, but to see kind of where the community's at, because office isn't one necessarily we always hear a lot from the community as first and foremost or top of mind, but it can come with benefits of creating additional jobs and incomes in the area, to even support other uses, as Carla spoke to earlier, like a grocer, or like, additional retail or existing retail for that matter. We are seeing a general diminishment of office kind of market-wide, well, with the emergence of things like remote work and home work and COVID impacts as well. But with that being said, there are still every once in a while very specific or kind of custom office needs, and so at least at this point, our thought, and we're curious to additional community input on this too, but is that office will not likely be at the very top of the list or very likely, but should a development project come in with an office component, we would evaluate it both for feasibility, but also with the potential interest on it. But it is not likely to be a major focus or requirement of the RFP at this point in time, given those market conditions and all the uncertainty still as we're getting amongst it, hopefully starting to transition out of COVID.
In terms of the life of the project goals, one of the things is really to activate the street in the big drive to Hillsboro. As Carla, downtown Hillsboro specifically, as Carla mentioned, downtown already is very citywide, we see it throughout the region, and we see it in the downtown, but as, what is the community's stated aspirations of being a veteran community or, kind of self-contained and balanced community or what, and how does that maybe, understanding some of the different comments and then reflect those citywide, but also into downtown and local levels. I'm trying to keep this in short because that's a pretty significant question that we could be here for quite some time, but in short, Hillsboro at a citywide level and in the downtown, and even as well as the local system, what a local about. We are our best as a community, and within the city, but also as a part of the region and the state, when we are balanced with different housing choice types, we are balanced with different job types and different industries and business types, different amenity types. Think about it, we're looking for sports and recreation, and type versus just more of a natural, passive natural space, and we benefit and are strong as a community with that diversity. And so I would say that how Black 67 fits into that downtown vision in the citywide vision of being a complete community is, along the lines of Carla talked in the presentation, is having housing that is available at different price points, to different income levels, of different types. It also is looking to create different amenity choices. And so we really believe that it shouldn't just be a bedroom community, that this shouldn't just be a residential site, for example, but really looking to have Block 67 embody the broader downtown community and be a mixture of uses.
Fuck you.
But again, back to the point I just made a minute ago, recognizing that they're just...
You're such a little prick, Dan. You're so self-entitled. You think you know so much, you don't know shit. You've never done anything with your own hands. All you've done is sit there and spew your ideas, and it's ridiculous.
Here's one kind of
Theme?
theme. We've heard
Theme.
previously, and then during the pandemic, as I talked to in terms of the timeline slide, and even now, what's taking so long? Or why aren't we moving the project forward? Or others saying, why not wait? Like, what if we're patient here, and maybe even a better opportunity can come 10 years down the road? And that's a very delicate balancing act for all of us, to be honest, and one that staff takes very seriously. And so the reason why we believe right now is the time to go back out into the market is fueled by a couple of different factors. Some of that is based on the market reports that Carla reported out on of there is strong interest and strong opportunity for Hillsboro as a whole right now, but also in our downtown for Block 67. Some of that is, I think, within our own community. We'll look at areas such as Orenco Station, or even in the Amber Glen, Kennisville, or South Hillsboro, some of those higher growth areas. And some of those areas have seen some very good and very strong development recently, but some of them are also getting to some of the most out. I think also that some of our neighbors to the east and the west and the north and south are seeing different development projects. And right now the market is having a renewed interest, as Carla noted, in centers like our downtown, centers that are very authentic, centers that have different transportation options. And so we do believe that now is a good time to pursue an RFP, to engage the development community at a more specific level, to really see what type of project can we deliver here and how closely can it contribute to our goals and the benefits of downtown and the whole community. We can always be patient, but then we run the risk too of not utilizing the site for a near-term opportunity that could be providing a little great plaza space over those next 10 years for people, or providing needed housing pieces for people over that same 10-year period. So that, I guess, kind of oversimplified, but really is the calculus from a timing standpoint that we're looking at. And we do believe we're in a window where there's good alignment between market support and economic viability and community need and community ideation. And then we're also looking, to be honest, of how can Block 67 also maybe help provision the next idea or the next project or the next benefit within our downtown and community line as a whole as well. Anything, Preston or Carla, that you want to add to that point?
I'll just add a few things about commercial development. We've seen quite a bit of interest from developers that are wanting to bring new things to our downtown, which is super exciting. So there's that as well. So we just want to make downtown a destination.
That's how people get priced out, unfortunately.
I see another kind of thread of some comments coming in here around, phasing. That's something we haven't really talked much about this go around. When we were engaged with the development community with a request for proposal or a request for qualification process, and that did come up a couple times. And
2017, and maybe reflect a little bit of this timing question. There is the ability with the size of site of this size to phase a project in over time. There also is the ability with the site of the site to do a pretty significant development, largely at one time, although maybe the construction components get phased in as well. So our thought, at least as we sit here right now, is both should be entertained, both should be pursued if they present themselves. And again, we believe, and we saw this last time as well, some of the development respondents may come up with some additional ideas of what that looks like in terms of either phasing the project in from a financial need standpoint or a, driving and supporting different efforts over a period of time, or simply just the ability to take down a project at this scale. So phasing is in play, but right now we're not in a position to say yes, the project either has to be phased or cannot be phased. We think that would be to the detriment of our community's positioning in this next step in phasing the project. Anything else to add on that question?
No, not really, but maybe just the level of detail that may or may not be appropriate. Phasing does provide some pros and cons when it comes to construction. If the project is phased, you can have some construction staging on site, which limits the impact on the surrounding neighborhood. On the other hand, of course, the process will take longer, and usually there's more expense with building a phase. There's definitely some pros and cons to that approach. One which may have merit in terms of making the project more feasible, but when it comes to financial.
I am seeing a few, which is good and consistent with last time as well. Questions and comments coming in around housing. Some thoughts from staff around the density of housing that we're thinking of, the types of housing, and also some comments and questions about sort of relevant housing, we're looking at regulated affordable housing, workforce housing, market-rate housing, ownership housing, rental housing, and the like. Probably go with you first in terms of just a little bit of what was in our market assessment first, and then a little bit of what we are hearing from the community and see as opportunities for the site.
Oh, sure.